Hello, this vid is on how to boycott the ANC and also on the economic way, the non-violent way to fight against terrorism. Let me use an example of the Fabian general called Fabius who fought against Hannibal. You might think, what's this got to do with the ANC? Well, I shall explain. Okay, now we wage an economic war on the ANC by diverting its leadership away from its members, okay, whilst encouraging the ANC supporters and moderate rational ANC leaders to move over to us and to democracy. This strategy is based on the economic and political scorched earth policy of making it against the social norms to associate with or do business with the ANC, in effect to make the ANC a taboo and dirty word. Further to this strategy, I call Fabian incrementalism after General Fabian, who defeated Hannibal, who was a wild and aggressive enemy, much like Julius Malema, by turning that offensive against him. In our case, Julius Malema's calls for the death of white people is an aggressive strategy on his part. Fabian, or in our case the Democratic South Africans, Fabian made the sphere of his actions wider and unconnected to those of his enemy. In effect, economic warfare broke those connections between individuals that have to have some contact with the oppressive force, which would be Julius Malema, the ANC. Hannibal in Fabian in the Romans case. But doing this, it starved Fabian's enemies of their economic underpinnings and political connections. Individuals lost connection with their own self-interest in having any relationship with the oppressive enemy force, which in our case is Julius Malema and the ANC. Now, thus he's making a no man's land of non-connections. When you make a connection with someone doing business or giving political support, that is a connection. That is creating reality, okay, by your actions, because we have free will. If you break those connections because it's no longer against the people's interest to do those things, that is creating the no man's land of no connections. Now, this conceptually formed a switch from the enemy, in our case the ANC, to our side, which in Fabian's case was the Romans, in our case is Solidarity, the Democratic Alliance, Democratic South Africans, people who want a Boer Republic, a Democratic Boer Republic. Right, getting back to the example. This caused all economic functions and logistics within the force of the enemy, in our case the ANC, to wither within and to contract from without. Okay, so they were disintegrating. Okay, in the case of the Romans and Hannibal, the force was disintegrating from within, and it was contracting as less and less economic resources were available to it, because of course those actual physical connections were broken. Now in Fabian's case, he also started to change the physical infrastructure of the land by diverting roads. In our case, no building contracts and no road networks would be built into the staunchest ANC areas where the most violent ANC supporters reside. But the Democratic Alliance areas, the areas where democracy and good governance in South Africa happen, would be built up through such contracts. And so people would make an ideological shift from extreme ANC feudalism to South African democracy by moving to democratic areas physically, okay, which the democratic areas would be well run, okay, and so therefore South Africa would be getting bigger and bigger, and the ANC support, right, and the ANC control, which is mostly based in the Eastern Cape, would wither away. That's why I said in my other vid, trade gaps and South African infrastructure boycott ANC businesses, that we have to let the ANC wither in the Eastern Cape. The way to beat terrorism is to starve the beast, and you need to make Julius Malema a totem of this terror, okay, in the face of the media. You have to refer to him over and over again, because once he is that figure, he will thus be, from the most extreme supporters of the ANC, atone for what they believe in, and thus